using, like I said, William Blake, the tiger, and this is already in the data raw folder, and the files called the tiger William Blake.txt. So basically, let's just open this. I'm sorry, this was very basic. I know Fernando knows a lot more Python than this was, but this was supposed to be for very beginner Pythonistas going into intermediate, and I didn't want to leave anybody behind, so that's why we have this. So I'm just gonna gloss over it. We basically concatenate the text in here into the text variable, and then what I wanted to do here to later compare stanzas across like stanzas within the poem was just to get the stanzas separately. So we have a quick function here to get the stanzas from each one of the characters, and since they are divided by new line characters, that's very easy to do. So what this function does is it will it's a generator that it will give you a stanza every time you call it. We're assigning it to the variable x. I was not very creative here. So they are all contained here. Like I said, this is a generator. And so to do to get all of them, we get stanzas for and just like a quick for loop here. So or this comprehension rather. And we're going to print the stanzas. So if we want to get the first stanza, we do this, and you got tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night. What immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? So that's the first stanza. Like I said, we can look at the whole thing, but the idea is that later on your own free time, if you want to look more into spaCy, you're going to be comparing how similar these stanzas are to each other. And that is something that spaCy allows you to do right out of the box, but with the larger language model. Okay, so for now, let's just go right into processing the whole text, not the stanzas. So the whole text will be contained inside doc. And then we're going to display the noun phrases like they did over here. If you remember, you need the method noun.chunks, or actually the attribute noun.chunks. And if I run it, now you can see that tiger alone is not just the noun, but tiger, tiger is the noun phrase, right? This has to do with the building blocks of the sentence, like I said, Fernando. So, so the noun phrases are syntactic categories that behave as a noun, right? So for example, the subject of a sentence behaves as a noun with respect to the verb, for instance, right? So the forests is not a noun. Forest is a noun, but the whole noun phrase is the forests, also the night, what immortal hand, I, etc. So this is how it was classified. That's as far as noun phrases go. Unfortunately, spaCy does not allow you to do verb phrases out of the box yet. So this is something that I'm sure people are working on. We're going to, instead of getting all the verbs here, let's mix it up a little bit and let's get the adjectives. And so for adjectives, we do, yeah. Sorry, Adriana.
So Fernando is asking, why are there duplicates in the noun phrases?
So duplicates like I and
yeah, like tiger, tiger.
All right. So if we go back, let's just print the whole poem. It boils down to it. The language model is going to classify all the tokens, so all the words, no matter what. So it's not going to give you a set, or it's not going to reduce the words to a set. It's just going to classify the whole text. Okay, so I would like to print, yeah, and let's do that here. Let's look at the whole text. Rather, I think it would be better if I do this. So this is not a duplicate tiger. It's actually, you know, the way the poem is written.
Sure, but I think the question is like there's tiger later, right, in the text. So there is a repetition in the text, and
yes, there's a repetition in the text on down here, tiger. So it will get classified again because it will attempt to classify the whole text.
So I think it's interesting also that the definition of noun phrase doesn't include a preposition like, right, of something.
Yeah, and that will change with each language model you try. So why don't we actually try and load the small language model here? And that would be a good thing to, you know, like just run on your own. I don't know if there were any changes, but so what in model is still classified as this? Skies.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce these words, but the sinew of thy heart. Some people would argue that the sinew of thy heart is one noun phrase.
Yeah, the sinew of thy heart. I agree. I guess they're just separating, and you know, this is one of the things that computational linguistics struggles the most, because there's a lot of ambiguities that can happen with prepositional phrases. So because you can attach a prepositional phrase, like you said here, to the sinews, that's how I would classify it for sure. But is of thy heart, could it be referring to twist, right? So I don't know. So these are the limitations, of course. Good. Well, we changed our language model, doesn't matter. We'll keep going, and like I said, let's try adjectives. And in this case, we get bright, immortal, fearful, distant, deadly. You would think that, you know, such a complex poem would have more adjectives, but this is because all the modifiers, all the ways that nouns are being modified are most of them are using things like prepositions, right? Or prepositional phrases, of the night, etc., etc. We can revert back to noun, and we'll get all the nouns in the poem. Okay. There are more of these, and so if you want to take a look at what these are the universal part of speech tags. And like I said, we have adpositions, right, which are like a way to say prepositions, but these prepositions are only in English. There's other languages that use pre, post. I think there's some that are go in the middle. I'm not quite sure. Auxiliary, reverse, conjunctions, etc. This is a limited list. This is not very fine-grained, but spaCy only supports these type of post tags. Okay, you can probably configure it to support like more specific types of post tags, but as a right of the box, this is what it is. All right, so let's look at name entities in the text, and spoiler alerts, there's none. Huh, okay, tiger seems to be a person.
Yeah.
Maybe like Tiger Woods. But if we use the other one, the transformer one, you would not get this for sure. There's no name entities. So that's what we mean by, you know, the boost in accuracy. All right, let's dive deeper, right, into what spaCy is and the documentation in general. So far we've been working with doc, right, which is the object that allowed us to process the whole text string. But let's take a closer look. What we want to do is look at what type of object it is. And it's a spaCy object under the tokens module. And it's a doc type of object, like I try to do over here, but it's still loading. The exercise, and maybe you want to do this at home, so is use dir, the Python dir function to look at the doc attributes. And so you'll see that there's a bunch of attributes. We're not going to dive into most of this, but I wanted to point out the language one with an underscore that will actually allow you to detect what type of language, the language of the text that you're working on. Maybe we can even change the text a little bit so that we can see if it can detect other languages. So let's try it. It detects English right away. Okay. So, but if you guys can give me a poem in other languages, like one I can find on the web, we can try something else. I'm thinking of one in Spanish. Yeah, let's just try a small one in Spanish. Let's redefine text. And I think I'm going to do that over here. Yeah, why not? Es poesía. Pregunta. I think it goes like this. I'm not quite sure. So, ¿qué es poesía? Preguntas que van azul. Poesía eres tú.
So the sentence I wrote in Portuguese is, this is a sentence. You're much more creative than I am. I wrote in Portuguese, this is a sentence.
We'll try Portuguese next. I just wanted to use a poem to keep going with the the same. Oh, but you know what? We have the English language model. Anyways, we're going to try to detect it, but I'm sure that this will not work for the adjectives or anything. Yeah, adjectives, pupila and azul. Well, azul is good, but pupila, no, this is the pupil of your eye. So let's try just running the whole thing and looking at dog languages. Yeah, that's English, huh? I didn't try this before. So I wonder if there's like a better language module that is model that is trained on several languages and that it can detect what it is. Probably also English and Spanish are too similar for our language model that has only been trained or mostly been trained on English data. Yeah, sorry to disappoint.
Transformer-based multi-language
there are
models, right? So I don't know if
yes,
they're in spaCy, but they exist.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw some in spaCy out of the box.
Okay.
But correct. So NLP is going through in that direction, and definitely, I think this particular attribute must be for that reason, right? So what I wanted to do is look at the documentation again, and so like I said, the documentation is good, but it's not perfect. It can be confusing between what is a model, what's the API, et cetera, et cetera. I think there's no clear distinction because some of the API documentation is in models and some of the model documentation is in API. But let's go through the API and really quickly, we can go through the architecture. And I think it's better if we, sorry about that. Yeah, let's focus on the flow chart, which is right here. Okay, so my internet is giving up on me. So what spaCy does is it takes a language model, like we said, and it processes everything from there. The language model contains a tokenizer, but it also contains the part of speech tagger. It contains a sentence chunker. So if you want all the sentences in a text, it will give you those, and some extra ones depending on what type of language model you load or you create on your own with Prodigy, for example. These first get processed with the language model, and the language model will output two things. First, it will output a doc, which is what we were looking at over here. And then it will also output a vocabulary. That is because we always want to have a constant vocabulary, so that there is just one source of truth, like they say under the documentation. And the doc is going to change or to get modified depending on your pipeline. So you will be able to extract, for example, word vectors if your pipeline contains that module. If it doesn't, then you might be stuck with the more simple kind of attributes that it gives you. The document has tokens, so it's just a collection of tokens. And the tokens are the ones that contain all the part of speech tags, entity name recognition, etc. And they can also be accessed as spans, right? So a token doesn't need to necessarily be just one word, it's one word in context. That means that what is left and right of it, and actually the whole text, it matters to it, so that it can classify, so it can tell if it's, for example, the end of the sentence, if there is a space next to it or not, if there is, for example, like Adriana's example, New York City. So that's a whole span, right? Yes, Adriana.
Fernando has a question. If you said like he has to leave soon, if you could, sorry. Would you be able to go over some use cases of how to use the outputs from spaCy to solve problems?
Yeah, for sure. So I think I had, well, we had one use case in this particular notebook, and I think I have some time to go over that right now. Instead of going through the documentation, let's just run all of these. Okay. So there's one very common use case, but I can think of several other ones. So the most common one I would say is to classify documents, right? So in order to classify documents, what you want to do is have a comparison of all the words or the representations of the words in a text. So for example, in our stanzas, right? And I'm just going to print those here. So let's say you want to classify the stanzas in this poem, right? And maybe it's not a very practical example right now because the actual use case comes later. But let's say that you want to measure how similar one stanza is to the next one. And you can see that some of the words repeat, like tiger, tiger, as Fernando mentioned before, gets repeated in the last stanza. So we end with tiger, tiger somewhere else here. And so maybe you want to classify the stanzas into, or like measure how similar they are to each other. For some reason, you want to see if the first one is more similar to the second one than to the third one. So this is something that you can do right away, but with a larger module. Now, what is the utility of this, you might be asking? And so there's like a mini project that I had planned. And this is to build a classification engine for different free Coursera courses, right? So let's take this use case as an example. Free Code Camp, I don't know if you know about Free Code Camp, but they are a very cool organization. They're free, and they will teach you programming, anything from C++ to web development to Python, data science, etc. And they also have a very cool blog. And so what I did for this workshop is I extracted all of the titles and classified them and classified all of these free courses from Coursera. Like, as you can see, there's several for computer science. There's several for like other business, humanities, data science, etc. If we take this data set as an example, what you can do is get, for example, the names, so the titles of these courses and the institutions that teach them, and then you can predict the classification of new courses from these from this data. So let me see if I can give you a very quick look at the data. So the idea here is to help the writer of this blog post, right, to classify other courses from other sites into the same Coursera classification that we already have. And that's one use case that we can come up with. This mini project will guide you through it, and then at the end you'll be able to do your own classification. So that's something that you might want to try at home, but it boils down to 1,600 courses that are classified into 13 different types, like I said, humanities or computer science, etc. And then let's just run all these. You're going to use not only the names of the courses, but also the institutions that teach them, like Amazon Web Services, California Institute of Technology, etc. There's even some that are taught by the University of Arizona. So I wanted to show you those. Maybe I didn't run everything. Let's run all cells. Oh, I think there's an error here. Yes, courses. That's funny. Okay, here we go. So we have Astronomy Exploring Time and Space from the University of Arizona, Biosphere 2 Science from the Future of Our Planet, also for the U of A, and you have the links here if you want to take them. Those are all free. This is how the data set looks like, but in order to build a classifier, what you want to do is use spaCy, and you want to load another type of model, and that would be, of course, this is for you to do at home. So where are we? You will need a larger language Joule, but I don't think this is the right version of the notebook. Sorry, I will give you the right version of the notebook. So what you want to do is get the larger WebSM LG model. And then what you want to do is use the similarity to actually load the future learn dataset that I have in store for you, which is right here. Data row courses to classify. Let's take a quick look at it. So you have things like critical international migration law from the University of Kent. And since you don't have a law classification in Coursera, it would be interesting to see how these law courses get classified. Will it get classified into, for example, education and teaching, or into business? There's no real place to classify them, maybe along with humanities. And all the data that you have in order to classify this is the institution. This is a good guess because maybe Amazon Web Services is more focused on technical skills, teaching technical skills, than teaching, for example, languages. And the name of the courses. So since you have so much data, so 1,600 names for the courses, that will give you a more accurate prediction than just trying to classify all the law courses into one. Of course, this is a very small example because these are only 10 courses total. But you see, the benefit of doing this type of classification is that if you were the author and you really wanted to do this task and you wanted to classify from multiple sites, there's no way that you're going to be able to do it manually. It just will take you a lot of time. So this is a very common use case, text classification. Another use case, for example, is using the part of speech tags, like we saw before on, I think it was this notebook. Nope. Let's try and find the other notebook. So if you remember the part of speech tags where you would get the adjectives for all the verbs, etc. I think that was in the first notebook one. So no, it's actually the documentation notebook. So once you know that there are part of speech tags, what you can do is, if you want to classify a list of things that are not words, but like entities like larger than words, I'm going to show you an example in a second. That's the next use case. Oh, what did I do with it? Anyways, I can't find that one. Yeah, I don't know where I left that one. But if we go to data, not in raw, but in processed, where is it? Interesting. Okay, I can find the data that I had prepared for that part of the workshop, but let's say that you have a data set, and I have it right here, actually, in here. Yeah, so I'm going to make this larger so you can see it. All right. This is a list of like methodologies and other types of mostly noun phrases, I would say, from a book, okay? So this is from the ontology of a book. So what you do is, let's say that you want to classify all the methodologies, or rather order them, right? So that you can see all the methodologies that are available in linguistics in this case, because this is a book for methodologies in applied linguistics. So what you do is you want to order them alphabetically, but by methodology, or like by the noun phrase, or the noun actually. So what you can do there is you can use spaCy's post tagging attribute to get the nouns and then order them alphabetically, put that in a dictionary, and then order this. That's another use case that comes to mind, and that I actually wanted to work with you guys on this workshop, because I think it's one of the easiest cases. Other things that can be done later is to build classifiers, or, well, rather, for example, if you want to build a chatbot and you want the chatbot to identify people or places, you would be using the name entity recognition for that. And there's there's many more capabilities in spaCy that I don't think we're gonna get to talk about, because I guess, Fernando, you have to go.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm a super beginner about this, but I did learn a lot.
All right, thanks. So what I think that you can try is, and I'll push the latest version of the Jupyter notebooks to the repository that I shared, and it's also online on the ResBazAZ website. So what you can do is go through these use cases, and maybe that will give you a better idea of how to use the modules in spaCy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'll be checking those out. I already opened one of the ones that you have, and just looking at it kind of just very briefly right now, it gave me a better idea of kind of what, just trying to wrap my head around this whole thing. But no, this is very good.
There's also a wrapper for spaCy for R. It's called spaCy that I use a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. It's very, very informative.
Thank you for coming, Fernando.
Thank you.
Do get your freebies.
Okay.
I think that will be, yeah.
Okay.
If you want to share, that super secret link with colleagues, I think I'll be fine. But yeah, let's try to keep it not too shareable.
Okay.
So let's not post it anywhere on the internet.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
See you, Fernando. Bye.
Yeah, I think my favorite use case is identification of authors, because we all have, different ways of using, different patterns of using nouns and adjectives and verbs. So actually identifying who wrote what, I think that's, to me, it's pretty fun.
I love a paper. I don't know if you know about this Wizard of Oz problem. Yeah, so that's a very famous paper. So just for the people who may be watching this recording, this is so Frank Baum, I think it's the author for the Wizard of Oz. He wrote like the first 3 or so Wizard of Oz books, but after that, he passed away, and there is a period where like there's 1 or 2 Wizard of Oz books that went unclaimed, let's say. After he passed away, then another author picked it up, and she, I think, wrote like 3 more books or something. And I can get you I'm actually going to post that article. I think it's open access. I'm gonna post it on the repository. So the idea was based on both, like the first ones written by the original author of the first book, and then the last one. So classify the ones in the middle. And I think that was a very nice case. But people are obsessed with like William Shakespeare, of course, not about this, right? Yeah. Have you done some work on this field, Adriana?
Well, what I did was to look at Portuguese and classify whether the Portuguese was written by Spanish speakers or English speakers.
Oh, interesting. Was this for your dissertation? With
No.
Okay.
It was a long time ago. So it was before my dissertation. So yeah, so I found some obvious patterns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that there's this misconception in the natural language processing community that because they're very similar languages, they can be treated like kind of as the same, right? Have you encountered that?
Yes.
And so what did you find? What were your findings like? Did you were you able to tell if these were Spanish speakers trying to write in Portuguese or not?
Well, yes, even like if the Portuguese is really good, it's just the patterns, right? For example, Spanish is a pro-drop language. You don't need to use the subject, right?
Right.
So in English speakers, they use subjects in Portuguese much more often, although you don't have to.
Of course.
And for what was the other thing? I think it was contractions. Also, contractions are pretty hard in Portuguese. So use a more subject pronouns for English speakers in writing in Portuguese, and the use of more contractions, like because we do these weird preposition. I mean, it's not weird, but it is weird for a lot of people who learn in Portuguese. We do contraction of preposition and article, but not always.
Yeah.
So, but Spanish speakers, they do learn that more like faster because there are some contractions in Portuguese, in Spanish, right, that can be transferred to Portuguese.
I see. So, is there a link to that research that you can share with us? That'd be interesting to look at.
I submitted the paper and then it got rejected. I was like, whatever.
Oh no.
And I gave up. So that was a long time ago. Yes, I can send you the paper, the one that published. I think I ended up.
Yeah.
I presented it like this was like in 2016, so it was before my dissertation.
Okay, when you were a lonely graduate student like ourselves, right, Sarah? So I think there's been a lot of research in that pro-drop area, but I haven't seen any computational linguistics one, so that'll be interesting to look at. And yeah, so these kind of words, like not actual content words, but like prepositions and articles, etc. It seems that those are very big clues as to like the author style, or even so for stilistics, that's very important. I didn't know that in second language was the case as well. Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, they don't carry a lot of meaning, but they do carry a lot of style, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So it's more of a personal choice, or maybe part of, you know, how your language module internally works, right?
Yeah. And also for
go ahead.
For another class I'm teaching, we're comparing the novel and the movie script, and looking at like what there are more adjectives, or if the noun phrases are longer or shorter.
Interesting. That's fun. I think.
Yeah, I like these fun things that never get published.
But that's a shame, because and what movies are you looking at?
So because I'm using GitHub, I'm also demonstrating how to use GitHub in this class. I'm looking at Emma by Jane Austen.
Okay,
and what's
Emma,
interesting is that there are so many different versions of the different movies and TV shows. So basically you could get them all and just compare the differences. But
interesting. That's very cool. So did he just win an Oscar, the most recent one?
Sorry, what?
The Emma, the latest Emma.
The one I'm using for demonstration, I got the one from 1996. Because there is a website where you can get all movie scripts, right? And it was the first hit. I was like,
that's
I'm just gonna do the one from 1996.
Okay, people that also use closed captions sometimes, but the movie scripts, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I guess that's more comparable. Are you taking that class, Sarah? No.
No, I'm not taking it. I think it's an undergrad class. I wish I had been in, or right? Is that correct, Adriana?
Actually, it's a class I just started teaching actually.
Oh,
So
cool.
it's for a university in Brazil, but
Nice.
I'm doing it in English and I have people from everywhere.
Cool.
Oh, that's so cool. Maybe you can, yeah, I don't know. That's so interesting. I
Sorry, I
wanted
saw
to.
you were teaching a new class, Adriana, and like I think it was like data science and something.
So I taught visualization. Introduction to data science, data visualization, and in fall I'm teaching a graduate class, data science and public interests.
That's very cool. I'm really interested in that class. I'm like out of coursework that like to justify it, but I want to take it, so I might be there. But we'll see. Anyway,
Maybe
sorry.
as an audit, it's nice to audit classes because you get to learn and you don't need all the stress, right? So I do want to ask you about how much use have you seen of spaCy, like both in academia and outside academia, or in your own work?
For me,
Yeah,
I
both.
see. Oh, for Adriana, is that who?
No, both, but yeah, Sarah, please.
Okay,
yeah.
sorry. I see it a lot actually. In a lot of the work that is being done in the lab that I work in with Steve Bethard is transformer based. But spaCy is sort of also Stanza. It's actually called Stanza. I don't know if you saw it. It's a recent release. I think that came out of Stanford NLP. It's
Yeah, Stanza's really, yeah.
which is really cool, and actually uses spaCy as well. You can choose to use spaCy's models or something for some of their like taggers and things like that.
Right, and even in publications, they're using that, or?
I don't know. I most of the work that I see done in the lab is more building off of I guess maybe I don't know about publication. What I'm more thinking about is it's certainly always like considered the tool to use if you're going to do text, like raw text processing in sort of my that I've seen a lot mentioned a lot anyway in my sort of in different circles at U of A.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't know about publication, but I do that it's a very everyone is familiar with it and certainly has experience using it at least. But I know that it definitely, like you said, I could see how it might have some more benefit to industry, but I do think there's a place for it in academia as well.
Absolutely, I've seen it in publications actually.
Yeah.
They just claim it's not, and I guess it's not the main purpose. That's why they say that.
Right. So maybe it's not the main purpose of the publication, maybe. Right. That's more what I've seen. Yeah. But I think there's like, you know, in work on dependency parsing and things like that, it's certainly like a decent tool to use for processing. So. But yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to
Thank you.
Yeah, I know a lot of people use it in corpus linguistics. So there'll probably be many publications out soon with spaCy.
Right, it's getting adopted, huh?
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, I just forgot to change my name. Sorry about that. For my pronouns. Thankfully, it was just Fernando. But I'm so for the people watching at home, are we still recording this?
We are still recording this. Would
excellent.
You like to give them? Okay, I kind of regretted not stopping it earlier, and I'm glad I kept it going.
No, it's great. Thank you. I didn't share those links publicly on the recording, I think, so very good.
Yeah, you're good. I started it too late. I'm so sorry about that, but we didn't.
That's perfect. Don't worry about it. I think it was when we were starting the notebook, so that's great. I did want to give everybody a heads up, including Sarah. So I contacted the people from Explosion, and they gave me an internship, and they didn't have one. Yeah, so I'm gonna start. I actually started today. They are very, very cool. It's a very small team, so I guess they really need the help.
Oh, cool.
And they're all over the world. So if you are an undergraduate or if you are a graduate student like Sarah and myself, always remember to reach out, even if it's not Explosion, but any, you know, like project that you're interested in. The better thing to do is just email people. And if you don't get an answer, that's fine. But in this case, I did, and I think they will be needing people for next summer probably as well. So Sarah,
Yeah.
maybe you can keep that in mind if you want to, you know, like it's a very, very cool team.
Thanks for the tip. I appreciate that. And I definitely agree, right? You don't get what you don't ask for, right? Isn't that?
Yeah, the thing is that they didn't advertise this. So
Yeah.
me and even Professor Bethard were very surprised because it was like, but we didn't know that they were having internships. Yeah, they weren't, but if you approach, you know, people, they might you might be surprised. So yeah. Just to end on a high note, I wanted to talk about the spaCy universe, which is, I think, a very cool project that they're doing and actually is part of my internship. So what they do is they go on GitHub and then they find cool projects that are using their library and they add it to their website. And so I regret not telling this to Fernando because there are pretty good use cases here. So you have like question answering systems and you have pipelines for other languages. There's so much here that you can do and you can use right out of the box. So if you're looking for some project, you know, if you're at home and it's summer, and of course that's not the case for Sarah because she's volunteering for everything, but you know, or Adriana because she's so busy as a faculty member. But if you're watching this and you want to try spaCy in context, what I would say is look at the universe tab over here and find one of those. And so one of the things that I will be doing is going into these projects and sending them pull requests so that they can update to version 3.0, which can only be used, by the way, with Python 3.0. Python 2.0, as you know, is deprecated now, so it's not being actively maintained. It's time to change, and the people in spaCy want to, you know, engage with the community that way. If you have a cool project like this and you want to contact me so we can add it there, you have my contact information on the ResBazAZ website. And otherwise, if you want to chat or if you have any questions about spaCy, there is a forum now on GitHub for that. And I'm also going to share that on the GitHub repository. And you can ask any questions and they will be classified and answered either by the community or by the spaCy team. And yeah, that's what I wanted to end the workshop with.
Nice. Let me get my clap emoji going.
Yes, clap emoji. Thank you so much. This has been such an interesting, I've learned a lot about spaCy and I use spaCy pretty frequently. So this has been cool.
I'm glad, even though it was an introductory thing.
No, I liked it. It was great. And I hope, you know, everybody watching at home, if you're watching this after the fact, also enjoyed it.
Let's hope people do watch it.
Yeah, right. It's good because this has been a great workshop. So thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you both. Remember to get your stickers and your prodigy going. Okay.